Join Charlie Malouf as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Tonia, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm happy to be here.
We have really been I've been looking forward to having you here. You've been a highly requested and suggested guest, and we finally got it worked out. So welcome. So before we get going, Tonia, I always like to kind of know a little bit about you before you came to the river, and then we'll kind of get into your career since you've joined us. But you are the director of home delivery currently. Yep. And I think you wear a few other hats. I want to kind of pull the thread back on that. But before you joined us, I know you had a pretty illustrious career in leadership in this industry. So tell us about it.
Yeah, Charlie. So I started in the furniture industry when I was 16 years old. At
Wow.
the time, I did not think it was ever going to become a career, but it did. I fell in love with it. I absolutely love furniture, number one. I'm constantly looking at things and want to buy new things and rearrange my house all the time. But when I got into the leadership side of it, I believe I was 19 when I became a supervisor.
Wow.
And one of the drives to be a supervisor was because I wanted to make sure people were taken care of appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So I started as a supervisor, moved my way up through manager to overseeing a service center to overseeing a region. And when I left Raymore and Flanagan, I was their market director of customer experience, which is kind of like a VP level position for them, overseeing 32 stores and 4 DCs.
Wow. So was your entire career prior to Broad River with Raymore and Flanagan?
Yes.
In the
yes,
Northeast?
It was. Yep.
Wow. And so when you started at age 16,
Mm-hmm.
and how did you get into it?
Funny story, Charlie. So my mom had started working for a furniture company that at the time was called Furniture Unlimited, and it was located
Furniture Unlimited.
Yeah, it was located in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And Raymore and Flanagan was a large furniture retailer that was primarily at the time located in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And they acquired Furniture Unlimited, switched it to Raymore and Flanagan. And I mean, I can remember going to career day at my mom's work when I was like 12 years old and actually sitting there thinking to myself, this is so boring. I will never do this.
Oh.
She was actually what you would consider like almost a dispatcher. So you'd go into her office and there were all these maps on a wall and she was pinning all of the stops manually. So that's how they routed back then.
And you thought that was boring.
I thought it was so boring.
I love maps.
I thought it was so boring. But yeah, for career day, I was like introduced to the furniture industry at 12 and then ended up working in the industry at 16 part-time.
And then you went into leadership at age 19. How did that come about?
So I was actually working with one of my leaders at the time. Her name was Lorraine. Really just wonderful, wonderful lady. And at the time I was in the service center and I was helping coordinate the routes for our on the road technicians and, completing the reports. And I had been there for a while. And when new people came in, I was helping to train them. And Lorraine was like, you know what, you got something here. And, why don't you go and be a supervisor at one of our showroom locations? So I ended up being a supervisor in the Montgomeryville store in Pennsylvania. And then I ended up going over to our Allentown showroom as a manager, and then back to our Quakertown showroom, which was where I started. But I loved the service center aspect of it. The showroom, it's kind of, you're front facing, or customer facing. And in the showroom, you're kind of behind the scenes and there's much more strategic work going on and planning. So I eventually ended up going back to the DC as the manager there.
And what was the motivation to go into leadership? You mentioned that briefly when you were telling your background story.
Yeah, well, just like with any company, not every hire is a good hire, right? So I think we all have worked for leaders that we still learn things from, right? Sometimes we learn what not to do. And I had unfortunately had to work for a leader who I learned a lot of what not to do from.
Okay.
And that kind of spurred me. I was like, I really think that I could do this. Like I could.
A better way.
Yeah, I could treat people better than
Okay.
this. So I got into being a supervisor, and of course, I made my own fair share of mistakes.
Yeah.
There are probably some people out there when I was a very young leader who thought I showed them what not to do.
Well, I mean, I just love the motivation of going into leadership. Pat Lencioni wrote a book called The Motive, and it's like, if you're going to be a leader, make sure it's for the right reasons, not because you want all the praise and accolades, but because you want to serve others. And it's like, hey, I had a bad experience and I want to make that better for others. And so I love the motivation behind that. Okay. Great background, great career with Ray Moore. I mean, how long have you been with Broad River now?
I believe it's a year and 4 months.
Yeah, 16 months. So not long, but you've had a profound impact already. And how have you been enjoying the Carolinas and the warmer weather?
I love it. I mean, that's, part of how I found myself to be here, right? I went on vacation with Mike in March, and we were down here, and it was a rainy week, but it was warm. And we were getting ready to head back to Connecticut, and I was telling him, like, I don't want to leave. I prefer to be down here. We knew we were going back to snow, right? But we went back, and the whole time I was trying to convince him, like literally the whole drive home, I was like, can we we'll quit our jobs, we'll move down, we'll find new jobs.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we would need to find work. So we got back to Connecticut. I started working, again. And not long after, I had a message in my LinkedIn inbox from Kate Ross saying that there was a position available at Broad River Retail. And of course, I actually knew somebody who was working here, John Connolly, who worked with me for several years in Raymore and Flanagan, one of my favorite people. So I connected with John, and I tried to learn as much as I could about who you guys were and whether or not I'd fit in with the culture.
So that's a great segue. Let me ask you this then. What was it about Broad River Retail, our culture, and the opportunity that you saw in front of you that was the most attractive to you?
Well, I came down, I believe it was in May, and I had the opportunity to meet with several really amazing people. But everything was like planned out really well, like my flight, my hotel, I had a rental car. I showed up for my interview. There's parking space in the front, and I go in and everybody's so welcoming. And as I went from interview to interview, I always asked the same two questions. What's your favorite thing about working here? And what's your least favorite thing about working here? And, sometimes I've been on a lot of interviews, and sometimes you can hear the answers and you like realize that they're disingenuous, right? That they're just giving you fluff. Everybody's answer was real. It was all different. There were things that they loved and things that they didn't love so much, but they were all different and they were all unique to the person, right? And then I'll tell you, I got into the conference room and Stacy McCormick came in for an interview with me.
Coach, we've had him on the podcast.
Yeah. And he is one of my favorite people. He sat down and he said, I already saw your resume. Like, I know what you're capable of. He said, but tell me about baby Buskirk till now. How did you get here? And it was one of the most genuine interviews that I've ever been on. And he really wanted to know about me as a human being, as an individual. I mean, there were times in that interview I was almost brought to tears and just felt a real instant connection with him and several others. Getting to know Kim Harkness, she's amazing.
GSD.
Yep, going out to lunch with Anita and Sam while I was here. It just felt like I fit, like it was home.
Okay. So I've got a little voice in the back of my head saying, go off script right now and ask her, what did you hear in those answers about what's your most favorite and least favorite things about Broad River during the interview process that day? I think those are two great questions to ask if you're inquiring about another company.
Yeah. So I heard a lot about the culture, about how much fun you guys have. And that was evident, right? Like the whole interview process was fun.
Well, good.
Even spending time with the team afterwards, I had the opportunity to go to dinner with Manny and John Connolly and Tracy Downs at the time, and just had a blast every step of the way. So a lot about the culture, different pieces of it, right? One of them had said, I won't name names just in case,
We're not trying to incriminate anybody, but feedback is a gift.
Yeah, but so somebody said, the flexibility, the ability to work from home or come into the office, and that's a really amazing thing that you guys have, because sometimes you need that human interaction, and sometimes you'd rather stay at home. So that was one of the things that somebody was really loved about the company. We heard a little bit about the technology and kind of the storist piece and the transition there and how it was quite difficult. And still feel like we're behind the times a little bit from a technology perspective, but just overwhelmingly a lot of really great things. And like I said, nobody's answer was rehearsed. It wasn't the same thing. So it was really cool to hear everybody's genuine answers.
Okay. So it's not been that long. It's only been 16 months. So I'm going to assume you remember your first day at Broad River.
I do.
Okay. So tell us about your first day one.
So my first day, Chloe, Tim Sale's daughter, was manning the front desk, and I really connected with her while she was there. She showed me to my office. My name was already on the door. Everything was set up. I've never had like a laptop and 2 computer screens before. So I was like, wow, like this is high tech. I had a TV on my wall. It was just like, wow. And then I saw the Memory Maker box.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The day one box.
Yeah. And, I knew that at the time, because through the interview process, that it was furnishing life's best memories was your vision statement. And that you called your team members memory makers. And that was just so impactful to me. I wanted to be a memory maker so bad. I started to see the T-shirts out there, and I was like, I need that T-shirt.
Yeah.
So, and then James O really was, you guys were traveling, I believe. Manny had sent me a note and said, I'm sorry that I'm not going to be there for your first day. But James O was there, super welcoming, walked me through everything I needed to know, took me out on the floor, made sure I was introduced to all the team members out there in the DC, made sure that every little hiccup of, oh, you're not on this email group yet, and you're not on this, that I got set up and connected with the right people. It was an amazing experience.
So a smooth transition, a welcome transition, and helped reinforce that it was a good decision.
Yeah.
Moving across states, across borders to some warmer weather. Well, you just mentioned our organizational purpose, furnishing life's best memories. Do you have a favorite in your 16 months thus far, a favorite story or memory that you can share with us?
Yeah. I knew this question was going to come up, so I've watched the other podcasts, and I thought long and hard because I have a lot of them. And, my interview with Coach was the very first one. And I'll apologize if I get a little bit emotional. I wouldn't necessarily say this should be a favorite memory, but it was one of the most impactful moments since I've been with Broad River. March of this year, we were in Wilmington with the acquisition, and I was there with Cherie and Tim Klaus. And we had endured a long day of inventorying product and getting ready to ship it all to our Four Oaks DC. And we went out to dinner after the day was done. And right as we were about to sit down, I got a phone call. So I went outside to take that phone call and found out that one of my closest friends had just passed away from long COVID. And obviously I wasn't in the right mindset, to go have a wonderful dinner. But I went back upstairs and, tears coming down, and they just looked at me and they're like, what's going on? And I said, Jess passed away. And they had known, we had talked about the fact that she had been in the hospital. And, most people would say, I'm so sorry for your loss. Cherie did not do that. She said, sit down and tell me what was so special about Jess. Tell me all the special things. So it could have been a night of me feeling sorry for myself at the loss of my friend. And it turned into me telling stories about this wonderful woman, and us all laughing together and enjoying some really, fond memories that I had. And it really changed the way that I looked at how to respond to other people when they're going through a loss. Typically you do say sorry for your loss, but really digging in and understanding what was so important.
It sounds like it was if anyone's watching right now, I'm sure there's some tears coming down, and that's Cherie. She's been on the podcast, and she's a very special lady, and it helped you kind of have that cathartic release of reliving what was great about your friend. And gosh, that's a really special memory. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's try to pivot now. Home delivery department and your team. I want to dig into that a little bit.
Okay.
So you've come on board, and basically, I kind of like to think of it as a startup within a company, right? You started up our home delivery department, and what I mean by that is, it was we had not had that before. We obviously did home delivery before with our third party logistics provider, but you brought some resources, tools, technology, systems, people in-house to help oversee that critical component and the expertise to do it. So what can you share about the learnings of creating and forming a brand new and critical department like home delivery?
Yeah. So when I joined the company, I really started to dig into the way you guys have it set up with your 3PL partner. Number one, really great people to work with. I noticed that they were using productivity metrics, which is common, right? Because 3PLs often do very diverse business, right? From package drop, doorstep delivery, things of that nature. But when you're dealing with customers in their homes with our Dash, there's a different level of service that's required. So we were looking at it from how many pieces did we send out and how many pieces did we end up successfully delivering. But that negated the customer and how the customer experienced us and our delivery service. So I was able to work with some really brilliant minds, Gabrielle and James O, to kind of pull together, how do we look at this from the customer's perspective? So we were able to, through some creative reporting, get that information and drill it down. So instead of by piece, it was by customer. And so we came up with customer satisfaction rating.
Yeah.
And that kind of transformed the way we looked at a successful delivery.
Okay.
Right? It wasn't just, did we deliver the piece? It was, did we satisfy the customer? So when we transformed that to customer satisfaction rating, we also took into consideration not just whether or not they accepted the product, but whether or not they required or needed a service or exchange the same day of the delivery or the day after. So yeah, just very transformative there, and getting our motor carriers to really understand the impact to the individual customer as well.
I love it. So took it from like just numbers and tick marks to like putting flesh on the body and the skeleton, right? And,
Right.
And putting a heartbeat in there. Like this is a real person, not just a number. So specifically, what are you responsible for then? So
I liaise between Broad River Retail and our 3PL company, Riverstone Logistics.
Okay.
So we partner quite frequently to really evaluate our challenges, our mutual challenges, and then put action plans in place to kind of address some of those things and provide a better overall customer experience. So with that, I also partner pretty heavily with other departments because truly a successful delivery starts the day the customer walks in.
You go all the way upstream on it. Yeah, got it. So tell us about your team, the home delivery team.
Yeah, so the real-time delivery team is head up by Dwayne Rick, and he is absolutely an amazing leader for that team. And then Taylor Pendleton, Project Premier Stars, by the way.
Nice.
And they're just an amazing group. They probably have one of the more challenging job responsibilities in a customer contact role. So they really take on the phone calls from the delivery teams and the customer while the delivery team is still in the home. So if there's an issue at the time of delivery, that team is the one who they get on the phone with the customer and they try to troubleshoot or problem solve. There's a lot to that, right? Sometimes it's setting a customer up for service. Sometimes it's can we really get this thing together, or do we need to replace it? But emotions run high in those moments, right? Because the way I look at it is, a house is a house. What makes it your home is the things that you put inside of it, and furniture is something that people utilize to demonstrate their own personal style and make it their space. So it can be a very, very emotional thing when something goes wrong in those moments. So they are the ones who are responsible for kind of diffusing that and really coming up with some creative solutions to get our customers taken care of.
And how large is that team?
The team is 9 associates who work from home.
Okay.
And then we have Dwayne and Taylor, who have kind of a dual role. Like they work from home sometimes, but then they're also traveling around to our 3 different DCs and spending time on the floor with our operations teams and also the motor carriers themselves. And work very, very closely with the leaders on the RLX side. Okay.
So is it 11 total?
Yes.
Plus you? And do Dwayne and Taylor report directly to you?
Yes, they do.
Got it. And I think that if something, I like to call that home delivery the zero moment of truth, the ZMOT. And so the response speed is like, the customer doesn't want to wait or be left in the lurch. They've already waited. They've cleared their home, their space. And so that responsiveness, it's so critical. So the fact that, I just want our listeners to hear, like, the real-time delivery team, it's head on a swivel. It's like, hey, I got to liaise with the motor carriers, with the stores, with the customer care agents, with the customer to figure out the solution we're going to have right now and let Mrs. Jones know we're going to take care of him or her like right away. So that's it's crucial. It's crucial. A lot happens in that zero moment of truth to really take what could be a negative situation, spin it into a positive and let them know it's going to be okay. I think that's so critical. You mentioned a couple other things I just want to replay real quick or double click on. You said DASH. Not all of our listeners know DASH is an acronym, right?
Yeah.
So how DASH is an acronym for Delivery, Assembly, Service in your home. And we'll get into that a little bit, but it's beyond just like doorstep or drop-off delivery. And then you mentioned that Dwayne and Taylor were both Project Premier Stars of the Month. So we have a program called Project Premier.
Absolutely.
And only 2 or 3 people get nominated, get awarded that throughout the company. So you had 2 people from your team get recognized, and it's peer nominated, right?
Yep.
That's fantastic. So they must be doing an awesome job and being recognized by their peers.
Yep. I get compliments about the 2 of them all the time. We've put service levels in place to say this is how quickly we'll get a response to you. And, they knock it out of the park. I got I believe it was Sam in our 4 Oaks market that reached out and said, I put this Salesforce ticket in and Taylor got back to me in 5 minutes. Then another 10 minutes goes by and he's calling to follow up and tell me what's going on with the customer. And, just really puts her in a relaxed state, knowing that her customer's in good hands.
That's how it should be done. So great job, Taylor and Dwayne. Appreciate you guys. Okay. Let me ask you this. What do you know about, we partner with Riverstone Logistics, and you have a lot of experience with motor carriers and the art of home delivery in our industry, which it's not palletized product, and it's not just drop it off on the box and leave. There's a lot more that goes into it. So what do you know about our motor carriers that maybe others don't know or don't think about?
Well, I think most people don't realize how challenging of a role they have. There's product they have to set up in guest homes that's pretty much RTA, right? You're building it.
We're big on that. We're big on acronyms. RTA, ready to assemble.
Ready to assemble. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever put together a piece of IKEA furniture, but it's challenging.
It takes a long time. I don't like it.
And it's super frustrating. If you're just there doing it by yourself, can you imagine doing that while somebody's looking over your shoulder? And, that's a lot of what they go through. But also, they start their day super early in the morning. They come into our DCs and they have to verify all the product, do a last inspection, and then load it on their truck. And then they get off on the road and, have to endure all kinds of things like traffic, and then in certain circumstances, like if they get to a customer's home and that customer isn't there or something needs to go back on the truck with them, that product now becomes something they have to work around for the rest of their day. So oftentimes they're offloading that product to get to the product behind it and then having to reload it. And then they do that up to 14 times in a day. So it's a very laborious job. And then in the home, you encounter all of these other challenges. Like, I don't know what it is, but furniture's just gotten bigger. It's all massive, these massive sectionals. And, you get to a house and it won't fit through the door, or it won't fit in the room that the customer wants it in, trying to navigate that stuff up stairwells and, and do your best not to damage the house or the product. So it's challenging. And, it's really important that we get to know our carriers and that we, when I look at it, partnering with a 3PL, that means that the gentlemen on our dock who are delivering to our customer are 3 times removed from what it means to furnish life's best memories. So I make it a point for when Dwayne and Taylor are out there in the field and when I'm out there to help them feel a part of it, right? To let them know that we appreciate them, we value them, we understand how difficult their job is, and then also to listen to them and get their feedback and take that back and try to make positive changes internally that might impact their ability to provide these premier experiences.
And those 2 things that you mentioned, they don't cost anything. And it's just simple. And it's so important because you've got a really laborious job. So you don't want the people doing this job that's really critical because they're going into the home to not feel appreciated. Because we work really hard to make sure our memory makers feel appreciated. And then we also we try to focus on, getting feedback, and you don't want them to not feel heard either. If you're not seen, if you're not heard, you can become very disgruntled, and then you don't feel like you have a purpose. And you mentioned you want to help them know what our purpose is so they feel like they've got a purpose in getting it and beautifying a customer's home. So I think they cost nothing, but they're super, super, this high leverage habits that can really produce high yield return on investment, return on your time invested, which is not a lot of time to do those sort of things. So thanks for sharing that. Okay. So we talked about how challenging of a job is furniture delivery and assembly. What in your opinion makes, I got from your voice that and what you've said, how much you care about it going really well, which is awesome, especially for someone in your role to like have that level of care. Like, I want this to go well for her and for the customer. So what makes a perfect home delivery and assembly experience with what would maybe generate a 5-star review and a highly satisfied customer?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, it starts in the store. Making sure that we've really qualified what the guest needs are, making sure that we've gathered all of the appropriate information, that we have the correct contact numbers so that we can reach out to them with their time frame notifications, but also so that our carriers can reach them should they be encountering any challenges while they're out there on the road. And then it really goes to our DCs, right? So our teams pick the product, stage it on the floor. We have a team that comes behind that and opens the product and does an initial quality control check. We have craftsmen on the floor who will make any repairs that are necessary. And, when you have furniture and it's shifting around on cargo ships and then on trucks, oftentimes it comes with the finish rubbed and things of that nature. So we make any adjustments we need to from that perspective. Team members who assemble the product, and then the morning of delivery and our teams arrive. And once it gets to that point, it's really about, this is an exciting moment for our customer. So, you should expect that they're going to come outside of their home and greet you, right? So if our trucks are clean and tidy and organized, if our carriers are dressed professionally and smiling, all of those are going to impact how the customer views that experience. And we actually do a carrier orientation now that we put together, and we talk about, the importance of showing up professionally dressed, having your truck clean, making sure that all the product is properly secured, walking the delivery path, which is also critical. We need to know what obstacles might be in our way in the customer's home so that we can alleviate them and have a damage-free delivery. Communication with the guest throughout the process. And then we send a survey and we follow up, right? And I'll tell you, customers are very forgiving. They understand things happen. All they're looking for is for somebody to care and to get them a resolution. So it's only when we fail at that aspect that they really become upset. So follow-up is really the key to everything.
So basically, no stone left unturned.
No
Every
stone
link
left
in the
unturned.
chain has to be inspected, test. Oh, you're going all the way upstream, and so thank you for walking us through that. So it's not easy, but it's that's the challenge. It's just blocking and tackling basic fundamentals, every single detail.
Yep.
So some companies refer to home delivery and maybe an elevated service as white glove delivery service or platinum delivery service. Mentioned earlier, we brand our home delivery service as Dash, delivery assembly service in your home. How is Dash different than, say, an Amazon, UPS, FedEx, or even a DoorDash delivery? And why is this distinction important when it comes to furniture?
So it's a lot different, right? So FedEx, UPS, they're typically not interacting with the customer, the guest. With our teams or any other white glove delivery service, they're in the guest's home. They're being invited into the guest's home. So, that's a critical moment. And we all know that we immediately judge what's going on around us, right? And it's based on our own personal belief systems and things of that nature. So again, if you show up and you're smiling and you're happy and you look great and you're all dapper and dressed nice, you're going to inevitably give that guest a better experience. So those are really critical things. And you have to, as a motor carrier, you have to be equal parts a delivery professional and a salesperson, and to some degree a customer experience representative, right? A lot of our guys out there can actually fix small things with that go wrong. But they have to be able to do all of those things in order to create a successful delivery. They're not just dropping a package at the door.
So vastly different skill sets and hybrid skill sets. And then I'm assuming product handling, inspecting, prepping, deluxing, wrapping, loading furniture, they all contribute to the entire home delivery experience as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely critical. And so when I joined Broad River, the product was not opened until the morning of delivery, and the carriers actually opened it. So there were, we're now just catching these things where product was damaged in the box or, something's missing. So
it may be too late to do anything about it.
Right. So, and this is the operations team here is so amazing. We started talking about what could we do differently here? Could we prep and assemble? And also, think about it. If they're opening all the product on the dock, that's delaying them leaving. There's more assembly that's going to need to be done either on the dock or in the customer's home. So these gentlemen were having really, really long days, and we were able to take some of that off of them. And so we started talking about prep and assembly and what that would mean to us and what it would look like. And I can tell you, Austin Wilson took that and ran with it in Four Oaks. Just did a really amazing job of getting everybody on board and excited about it. And, we started off slowly to make sure, we were going to see the right return on investment. And we also needed to hire up in order to make that the reality. So they started off with a few lanes, and then they moved to and now all 3 DCs prep and assemble the vast majority of our product.
And has it made a big difference?
It's made a massive difference. Could you imagine coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning and knowing that you have to open all these boxes and put together all this furniture and then you have to go and deliver it?
Well, I can imagine it. I don't think I would like it, but yeah, no, I love the improvements and how you explained them. And so you talked one more element of going upstream here, you talked about, our retail teams and what happens at the store. So how critical of a role do the retail teams play or have when it comes to getting a customer's details correctly and accurately obtained, whether it's in the product item SKU detail level or in the address or the directions or, hey, it's a security gate, it's a military base. Well, how important are those details?
They're absolutely critical. We can and will make almost anything happen, but we have to have the right information, and it has to be timely. And the other thing that I would say, I already mentioned, so I won't go through it again, that when we have a not at home, right, those team members are now taking that product off and on the truck. And, I have a warehousing mentality. So anytime we have to touch a product, not only are we risking damage to that product, but more so we're risking injury to that person who has to touch it. So it is absolutely critical that we get all of those pieces right. And then the other thing that I would say is that, recognizing that they all work on a pay for performance program, right? So if that doesn't land in the customer's home, there's a whole line of people who are financially impacted by that, including our motor carriers.
Yeah. It hurts not just at the store level, but at the contract carrier level, motor carrier level. Tell me about all the machinations and all the logistics that go into scheduling one's delivery day.
Okay. So especially with supply chain the way it's been, there were serious order delays, and we have our delivery scheduling team who's really working kind of around the clock to contact all these guests and let them know where they stand with their product. And we're actually very close to alleviating that backlog, which is super exciting. More and more deliveries are being scheduled at point of sale, but once they connect with the customer and the delivery date actually gets scheduled, we then push that to our routing software, Dispatch Track, and we route everything, and then we start to send the notifications to the customer, and then once all the notifications are sent, we give some time to respond. And then Brian's team goes back again and attempts voice-to-voice confirmation with any of those customers that didn't respond to one of the notifications.
And the notifications come via text or email?
Text, email, and phone call.
And then if they don't, and that's the voice-to-voice that comes behind the text or the email. So there's a lot of just trying to verify, hey, we want to still come on November 26th. Are you still available for us?
Yep. So And that's part of the reason why having the customer's details accurate in the system is critical, because we have the ability to automate these notifications, but if we don't have the appropriate contact information, we're missing our guest, and then could even fail on the voice-to-voice attempt. So we have seen instances where we've gone out to some place to deliver furniture and the customer had no idea it was coming because we were missing a key piece of contact information. So, and then, once that happens, that's when all the product starts moving and our operations teams are getting set for the delivery day. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's a lot of people who are interacting with this product to make sure that it's showroom quality and ready to go for our customer.
How often will we take product out to a customer's home if we had it scheduled, but we didn't get that voice-to-voice confirmation?
I would say that at this point, it's probably like 25% of our...
And do we successfully still deliver those, or they just didn't get a chance to respond? Or
some of it. Yeah. I would say probably 30% of that 25%.
So 30% of the 25% times we deliver those successfully. So tell me, but also on delivery day, that's when we're calling to schedule. That's when the customer gets their delivery time frame window. And so how does that work?
Yeah, so we route the stops, or our partners route the stops, really. And we have essentially service times by SKU. So that kind of lets us know how much time they project that the team will need to be in the home to assemble product. And then the time frames are derived from all of that information based on traffic, time in home, things of that nature. So what we've been able to do is get it down to approximately a 3-hour time window. And that gives us a little bit of room just in case the team encounters unexpected traffic or unexpected challenges in a guest's home. But we do provide our guests with a 3-hour time window. And then we do also ask that our carriers contact the customer when they're on their way.
Yeah, call ahead as a courtesy. Okay, fantastic. So we've had one of our company's top initiatives, as you know, has been PDX, Project Premier Delivery Experience. And we've often said this is going to be a multi-year project, so this is just phase one. But we've had some tremendous success and results in your first 16 months on the job. When we look year over year, I mean, it's not like 20 basis points, it's hundreds of basis points improvement, which has been phenomenal. And so you've identified the vision for Project Premier Delivery Experience, and everything's going well, but we still have room to grow. We know that. I'd love to get your perspective on how you've been able to influence such positive results with Project PDX.
Well, the one thing that I would say, Charlie, is that it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
I have not been able to do any of this on my own, but partnered with Dwayne and Taylor, who have a true passion for our guests and a passion for the delivery side of the business. Our partners in Riverstone Logistics, who also have the drive for continuous improvement. We've been able to make really great strides on both sides. And then our operations teams really, nailing it with prep and assembly. And also they continue to strive to do more each and every single day. So one of the most recent initiatives was the delivery prep labels. So now we're starting to label the product with the stop, the truck, the customer's name, which makes it much easier for the motor carriers in the morning to identify how to load their truck in reverse stop order. It helps us identify cross tags, so we're not sending as many of those out. We've been able to reduce DC errors. It helps us at the return store if furniture, unfortunately, has to come back to the DC. So it has been truly a multi-pronged approach. And I'm just honestly so grateful because anybody could have looked at that and said, well, Tonia's in control of Premier Delivery Experience. It's all on her. But everybody has rallied around this idea of providing a Premier Delivery Experience, and everybody's pitching in to do their part. So just really, really grateful for the collaboration and all of the innovation on all sides in order to make this a reality.
Well, I love that example of putting collaboration and innovation into these visual cues in the prep lanes. And so those are two of our core values, and so is customer satisfaction. So there's 3 of our 5 core values right there. What are some of the other key accomplishments and initiatives that you've achieved or you all have achieved in the home delivery department or specifically within Project PDX that you're really proud of?
Yeah, so I would say customer satisfaction rating is one of the top projects that we worked on. Number one, it was painstaking. James O did so much work to develop spreadsheets so we could track it manually initially. And then Riel was able to work us into having that automated, which we're truly thankful for because so much work was going into manning that spreadsheet. We were able to work with our partners, Riverstone Logistics, to kind of change the way they were paying carriers. So instead of flat rate, they went to a pay for performance system, which, it has incented some of the right behavior out there in the home, getting customers, providing customers with these great delivery experiences, making sure all the product stays in the house. We've also done that carrier orientation and really trying to make them feel like they're part of a team. Our team, and help them understand what it's like to furnish life's best memories. And when I have an opportunity to participate in that carrier orientation, I always talk to them about, I want you out there taking selfies with our customers, and showing us their new stuff, right?
Those are three great examples. The CSAT work and the automated reporting there. Show me how someone gets paid, and we'll show you the behaviors that result from that and how they take care of the customer, and influencing that in a positive way, and then orienting someone the right way. That orientation is so benefit and to infuse purpose into that. So those are great. Okay, so I can now see in all the logistics you went through, painstaking details. It's just so important to get this last mile, zero moment of truth opportunity that can sometimes go awry, to just get it finely tuned and just right. And you have to have the right leader like you in place to overlook all the elements of the machine. Okay, so now as we prepare to go into 2023, what are the next level improvements that you're focused on in this home delivery area? How do you continue to improve these results and elevate or level up in 2023?
So one of the things we have our eyes on is really creating better efficiencies with our routes. All of our DCs have vast footprints, and we're trying to make sure that we hit every single area of our footprint pretty much every day, with a few outer routes here and there. And what we found is that we lose some efficiency. We could actually, in some ways, deliver more by isolating where they're going and sending more trucks into our key areas, which would mean maybe, a day or two wait for some other guests who used to be everyday deliveries. But what we're finding, and this is another area where Riverstone has been a fabulous partner. We initially started talking about this, and then they were able to utilize their software and pull from Dispatch Track all of the information, and then actually create some models of how much we delivered in actuality versus how much we could have delivered if we had zoned delivery areas. So that's a big push for us. It would also help enable us, because most of our trucks would be in centralized areas and moving around throughout the week, that we would be better able to do follow behinds. So, or if somebody wasn't at home because they just couldn't get out of work, they could go back later in the day because they'd still be in the area. So there's definitely, from an efficiency perspective and a cost perspective, we could drive costs down, improve efficiency, and actually deliver more. But there is also the possibility, and it's unmeasurable right now, but that we could provide better delivery experiences and impact more guests. So that's a really big push for us. And once we get through the holidays, we'll really start to get to that.
Well, I think those are two great examples, because I think continuing to elevate the customer experience or the guest experience at this point, because we said we still have room to grow, will only help us grow sales and revenues, which we know is important going into what many are saying might be a recessionary year. But also when you're going into a year like this, always reducing costs, and we're going into inflationary times, and figuring out how to get those efficiencies to drive down costs and drive out OpEx out of the business, helps us put more costs back into our people and back into the guest experience, or back into R&D, and not into inefficiencies like inefficient routes or gas or things of that nature. So, or wasted time, so that's awesome. I love that. Okay. Let me see if I can't throw you for a loop here. So at Raymore, I know that you had experience with this, like guaranteed 3 days or less, and a heavily in stock model. So as we started the pandemic with a single distribution center, and now we're going to come out of the pandemic, and out of the backlog season going into 2023 with 3 distribution centers. So like triple our capacity and 3x or 4x our amount of inventory. So and you talked about, booking the delivery at the point of sales, everything kind of starts to be in stock. What will that speed to customer, and where does this go for us in 2023? When do we get to next day, same day, or within 3-day delivery, and move more of our business that way? And what does that do for our HFCs and for our guests? Is that something that's really wanted or needed? Do people want furniture that fast?
Oh, I would say absolutely they do. Yes, I did have the ability to work through that. And, one of the keys to making that a reality for our guests is getting to a point where we can stock the majority of our offerings, right? So for us, we would need, think massive distribution center, or the ability to get direct from AFI each day for the following day. So those are, I've talked to Brian Deckelnick about some of this. So I know, it's on his radar too, but we did next day mattress delivery, and they also went to a 7-day model there. So I don't know how they'd feel about that down here in the South. I think I mentioned working Sunday once, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
So you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it, and you're planting those seeds. Believe it or not, we actually used to do 6 days and 7 days and same day and next day delivery, and many years ago in our company's past when we did a lot less revenue. So I'm excited for when that might come for our guests, for our people, and how that might transform our business. Okay, I want to shift gears. There's this acronym, I don't know how many acronyms, what acronym count we're on so far in this episode. Switching gears from home delivery to operations, because I know now you're wearing some operations hats. Well, let me just pause. You're not just overseeing home delivery now. What else are you overseeing?
So I currently oversee the Fort Mill distribution, so all of the operations within that space, and also working on some projects involving operational learning and development.
So, okay, Fort Mill operations and operational learning and development, in addition to home delivery. You're wearing like 3 hats, and it's awesome. But maybe this is the 4th hat. I've heard that you're a member of the EPIC team. What is the EPIC team? Do you even know what EPIC stands for?
Yes,
okay.
It's going to take me a moment. Exponentially passionate, intelligent collaborators.
You got it. Okay. Well, what are some of the collaboration ideas or innovations that have come from the EPIC team, and what is the EPIC team?
Oh my gosh. So the EPIC team is really a bunch of us who are really passionate about, creating organizational change and really looking for the best way to do things, knowing that we may need to fail fast, right? Mm-hmm. So we take a lot of risks and we experiment with new things, and it's very exciting. We get together, I think, on every 2 weeks, and a lot of the time it's just really throwing out ideas and then reworking those ideas and figuring out where we can go with it. And we've been able to do a lot of really awesome things. So I'm sure you've heard about our decoy.
I have heard about decoy, yeah.
Yeah. And that was a very exciting initiative that came out of that collaboration, identifying our top 10 KPIs as an operational organization, and then figuring out how to score that appropriately to make a compelling scorecard and for our teams and really get them motivated and challenge them to do things differently and really to strive together towards these larger goals.
Well, I love ideation and invention. I'm kind of jealous. How can I get invited? Can I be a fly on the wall? Can I get invited as an honorary EPIC attendee one time? Will you guys invite me to a meeting?
I'm sure.
Let's make that happen. All right, Tonia, this has been fun. We spent a lot of time on home delivery, which is so important and critical to our business. And we've had so much fun and success seeing it improve over these last 16 months. But I want to bring you back for a second episode because I want to go into more about you as a person, as a leader, and our culture and how we're thriving. So would you come back next week?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this has been part 1 of the Tonia Buskirk story. We really got into the nooks and cranny of the home delivery and operations and the EPIC team. Please come back, have a happy Thanksgiving, and please come back for week 2. We'll bring Tonia back, and we'll really get into some more fun details about Tonia and getting to know her a little bit better. Hey, we try to bring you fresh, new content straight from the river, fresh from the river, every Wednesday morning, wherever you listen or watch your podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube. Hey, do us a favor, mash that like button or hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode, or on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, whatever your preference is for where you listen to your podcast. If you're on the go, in the car, at the gym, walking, whatever you're doing, we let us know how we can get better. We love 5-star ratings, but hey, feedback is a gift. So join us every Wednesday and come back next week for more from Tonia Buskirk. Tonia, thank you so much.
Thank you.